Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Teams Like Brighton. And there's a lot to cover in it, so Richie, it's fair to say. Rather than jumping straight into the Leicester match, let's talk about the big story here. Leandro Trossard, an Arsenal player, probably by the time this goes out. Let's get your thoughts on this straight away.
Yeah, so obviously this has all happened pretty quickly in the space of 48 hours. Really, it's gone from Trossard's probably going to leave, but De Zerbi still wants to keep him in the fold. Obviously, Tottenham had a 12 million bid rejected, and then it's moved very, very quickly. His agent Josie Comhair is basically almost gloated about how he kind of put his player on the market and was offering him two clubs, saying, come sign this player. Obviously we're recording before this has actually been confirmed, but I think the fee has been moved to 27 million in total plus add-ons, including add-ons. Sorry, so that's a pretty good deal for someone with obviously his contract ends this summer, but club have an option of 18 months. A year extension. So to get someone who's just turned 28 for 27 million, I think is a good deal for all parties. It is a shame that it's ended like this because obviously 25 goals, done lots of great things for Brighton over his 3.5 years. But I will at the press conference today, De Zerbi says a couple of interesting things on Trossard. He did admit that, and I quote, "The situation was difficult because I understood Trossard wanted to leave. I'm sorry for the last period," obviously with him being dropped and the furore around that whole situation, because I prefer when people are clear, not when there are some different behaviours. We will see. I think we are a good team. We can play well with or without Trossard. He was then asked about any regrets over this and would there be a replacement this month. He said, "I think in the transfer market, you can always improve and buy new players, but we are at a good level now. The players in the squad are very good. It's not so easy to improve the squad, and if Tony and the club have the possibility of improving the squad, we will do something." And finally, he basically was asked about, are you happy with the attacking options without Trossard? And he talked about Enciso, Sarmiento, Ferguson, Welbeck, Matoma, Marcellana. He says we're scoring lots of goals. So, Tom, I'll throw it back over to you. What's your reaction to De Zerbi's comments, and then just the situation as a whole as he heads for Arsenal?
Let's start off as the whole. Things a bit, but if you're like, I can fine, you're not bigger than the club, and what's happened has happened. So I'll see you later. Off you go. If you want to leave. The agent talk is just on another level for me. It does make me laugh the fact that he wants the next step. He wants first team football, wants to be on the name on the team sheet every week. How on earth is he going to do that with Martinelli, Nketiah, and Saka as the front three? And then you've got Fabio Vieira, you've got Nelson, you've got Marquinhos. The list goes on. And Gabriel Jesus still hasn't come back yet. So again, it's he's definitely gonna be he's gonna be a bench warmer at Arsenal. I can't see him being anything other than that. But if you like I said, if he wants to leave, that's fine, that's fair enough. With De Zerbi's comments, it seems that he's confident with the team that he has at his disposal. Sarmiento hasn't really had a run of games yet in the squad, and I think Trossard gone opens up that opportunity. Same with Enciso. I think Sarmiento, particularly playing behind the attack or out on the left, is his strong point. Enciso, we're still waiting to see where his strengths are. I think he's very young, he's very raw, and I think that some of the criticism he's had in the past has been harsh. This is a kid who's still a teenager. So I think that there's a lot to come with him, and De Zerbi's very cautious about his development. Welbeck coming in at the right time, at the right place, especially when he channeled his inner Gaza against Liverpool, shows that, again, we're not going to miss Trossard. It was quite interesting to hear what Lallana was saying. I think it was on Sky Sports. And he said, look at the last 3 games, 3-0, 5-1, 4-1. You know, he's a big player. He's done wonders for us in the past, but we haven't missed him. And I haven't even talked about Evan Ferguson yet, who is probably my favourite Irishman at the moment in world football. We haven't talked about, the potential that Dennis Undav could suddenly mask out a fantastic string of games. Then again, he has scored more goals than Erling Haaland. Oh no, sorry, he scored as many goals as Erling Haaland in this calendar year. So the future's bright for Dennis Undav. It doesn't seem like we're going to be signing any players in this transfer market. I'll be surprised if we do, in terms of strengthening the first team anyway. I think De Zerbi is quite happy with what we've got at our disposal. I'm quite happy because we're scoring goals. That's the main thing. So it'd be interesting to see how that all develops. But overall, I'm not really going to miss Trossard. And it's just such a shame how it's ended for me, really. It's just one of those fine examples of agents crossing that line, that invisible line that you just don't cross, which for me just says a lot, really.
Yeah, it is a shame when, just the way everything works in life, pretty much, that you take a long time to build up a reputation, but in one fell swoop that can ultimately be damaged or tarnished or even destroyed. And I do think that Trossard's contribution should be remembered for Brighton. He's, I think, their second joint top Premier League scorer. Obviously scored a lot of great goals over his 3.5 seasons there. And Brighton get a profit out of him when he's 4 years older from when they signed him. So it definitely is a shame that it's gone this way. I actually do think that, and we talked about this, I think, in a previous one. Obviously, with Moepu, unfortunately being forced to retire because of a hereditary heart condition, and I think everyone will say the same thing. Hopefully that he is okay. Obviously, some sad news coming out of Zambia recently, but yeah, hopefully he makes a full recovery. But with him going as sort of a really very powerful box-to-box type player, attacking midfielder type, and with him gone, in terms of not playing at Brighton anymore, and Trossard obviously going as well, I do think Brighton could do with maybe an extra body in that sort of attacking midfielder role, athletic, powerful player who could get some goals. Obviously, Brighton are doing very well, but if they want to maintain that European push, I do think they need to have maybe more options. Lallana can get injured. We've seen that quite a lot. There's no guarantee that obviously they're playing very well, but they might go for a sticky patch, and sometimes you might need someone off the bench who can provide that firepower. So that's my take. But it's an interesting turn of events. And another player that we've unfortunately got to keep our eye on is Moises Caicedo. So on Thursday evening, The Athletic reported that Chelsea had submitted a £55 million bid for the 21-year-old. And before I let Tom react, because he's got a good point to raise from the past on this one, but De Zerbi was asked about his future. And at Friday's press conference, he said, I think Caicedo is very important for us. It's difficult to change with another player now inside of the season. I hope he finishes the season with us. But in the transfer market, it's always difficult to give one answer. When there are some big teams who want a player, it's good news for us. The best solution is he can finish the season with us. And in the summer, for him, it is better to change team. So, basically saying if he does go, doesn't want him to go, but a summer move would probably be best for all parties. He also added, I don't know if he will leave this summer, but if Caicedo continues to play like this, like the last games, it's possible he can leave for another team. So just on a quick point on that, going by Caicedo's own comments earlier this month, he actually said that he wanted to help Brighton reach Europe. So touch wood, he will stay. And also it seems from the sort of Brighton hierarchy that it's going to take an absolutely monumental offer to sign him. And I think the report said that Brighton essentially laughed off the £55 million offer because it's way below their valuation. So, Tom, thoughts on that? And then maybe just take us on a trip down memory lane to a certain someone who talked about a price tag with Caicedo in the past.
Let's go to August, shall we? When Potter down before as Brighton boss, Liverpool alleged valuation anyway. And what did Potter say? He said that boots. So if £42 million is enough for his boots, 55 is the boot the laces, in my opinion. So it's fantastic when you have managers that say that on the record and then it just comes back. Wonderful moments where you just, okay, right, we've got you on the shoestring here. So Potter can think all he likes. He could try and push it as much as he likes. The recruitment team, you need to look at about 75, 80 million if you believe what the social media comments are. Personally, I think £80 million is an absolute bargain for him because he is just such an unbelievably talented midfielder. And it's utterly incredible the fact that we got him ahead of Manchester United. I still love the fact that Chelsea are still coming to us again. That they've got no answer other than let's just steal from Brighton again. It's kind of like what Liverpool were doing to Southampton a few years back. Now it's we appear to be the Southampton of the Premier League, and Chelsea just appear to be the ones that are recruiting at the moment. But I with all the crazy amount of money and recruiting that Chelsea are doing, I just see it's an unattractive move. And you know, there's not been any whispers of Caicedo being unhappy with the rejection. I think he's been quite clear, the club has, regarding this situation, in the fact that we don't want him to go in this transfer window. And I think that's the key phrase, this transfer window. We don't want to sell our best players in January when we're on course for Europe here. We can officially say that we are European contenders, which is just something that is just absolutely unheard of at this club. So in order for that to happen, we need to keep our best players and say to them, look, stay with us for the next 6 months. And, you know, if you want to go, if they meet our valuation, you go with our blessing. But, you know, we need you to come in. We've got no replacements. We really haven't got a viable replacement for Caicedo. Really, we don't. So if we lose him, we've lost a massive chunk in our midfield, and we need to find out where the answers are in that. And I can't see it coming from the youth team, and we're going to have to rush with 10, 11 days left of the transfer window today to find a replacement. Well, that's going to hyperinflate any price tag that we want, because we're chasing, and we're in no strong position on the negotiation table, which Tony Bloom will absolutely hate. And the chairman's made no secret about it, about how much he loathes this transfer window. He doesn't like it one bit. So I think going ahead with this, Caicedo's here to stay, I think. People can speculate all they like. I'd be amazed if Caicedo go, even if the valuation's met, because Europe. And if we get Europe, we can attract bigger and better players. And if we can do that with Caicedo, in happy days. And then he could go, we get our £75 million plus add-ons and sell-on fees and whatever amazing bits of business that Tony Bloom will come up with that deal. And then we'll just find someone for fraction of that price. And we start the whole circle once again.
Yeah, lots of interesting points, and yeah, I completely agree. I think it would be very un-Brighton to let him go unless it was something like Neymar 200 million type figure. It just wouldn't. It would leave a gaping chasm in Brighton's midfield, and they would need to find someone to replace him. You made a sensational comparison earlier, Tomo, when you talked about Haaland and Dennis Undav in terms of being level pegging on goals this calendar year. Deserbi did touch upon the German striker, who's obviously struggled for game time and sometimes looked a bit off the pace. He himself admitted it's been quite hard adapting to the rigors of the Premier League. He seems maybe, I guess, he's probably third choice striker with, maybe Ferguson and Welbeck duking it out 1 and 2, and then him seemingly number 3. So in the last week, De Zerbi basically said after, I think it was Ed Turns who went out on loan to League Two side, and he basically said he didn't want to lose any more first team squad players. He liked the group that he had, but now he has potentially opened the door for a loan move. I think Blackburn Rovers, Sunderland, West Brom have been linked with the 26-year-old. So today, De Zerbi said there is a possibility for him to change team, Undav, because he's not playing a lot. But Undav is an important player for us. He's not playing lots of games because Ferguson played well. He scored goals. Welbeck is an important player. Lallana is a teacher on the pitch for us. So interesting one. I personally feel if they don't sign a striker, it might be wise to keep Undav just in case.
Yep.
But on the flip side, there's a chance that if he does go out on loan, he could maybe acclimatise a little bit more to English football. Maybe come back in the summer with a bit more confidence and ready for another go at the English top flight. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation, perhaps. What would you do, Tom? And what do you make of those comments from De Zerbi on Undav?
I find them quite interesting. Undav clearly hasn't hit the mark as much as many of us hoped, considering how well he was over at Union Saint-Gilles. But it's quite interesting how confident he seems. He seems to trust Undav as a squad player anyway. I do think if we do send him out, so there are benefits to it. And quite clearly, if we do send someone out on loan, we know that it's going to be beneficial. We almost have this incredible foresight of being like, yeah, if you go here, you're going to be fine. Well, and your development's sorted. And there are a number of championship clubs looking for him. Top half championship clubs, I might add as well. So they're all going to be full of ambitious football players around him, and they want him to acclimatise quickly. And the championship is fast paced. It's an incredibly open and hard league to compete in. So he's really going to be thrown in the deep end there, which could benefit him. And he definitely has that attitude of if he gets thrown in the deep end, he's one to swim, not sink. So there's a lot of pros for him to go out on loan. But if he does, we need to bring someone in, because we can't rely on 18-year-old Evan Ferguson up front. And then on the other side, we've got a 32-year-old in Danny Welbeck, who has just recovered from a long spell on the sidelines. Yes, he came on and scored an absolute beauty, which I will constantly remind people of against Liverpool. But if he gets another injury, that's him step back, and all we have is Evan Ferguson. We've lost Trossard now, and we could be looking into seeing Undav going out on loan just to get his feet on the ground, about getting familiar with the English football lifestyle on the pitch. But where does that leave us for the next 6 months? We need to look into bringing someone in, whether that's going to be a short term on loan for depth, or if it's going to be a permanent signing, if we're going to look ahead to the future and put in a gamble and invest in our depth if we get Europe. but I mean, there's a lot of gambles and factors in there that I think won't sit well with Tony Bloom at all. And I don't think that that's something that Brighton will ever consider unless there's something there in the offering in the background that we haven't seen yet, which 9 times out of 10 is always the case in our transfer dealings. So if Undav goes, it's a pro for him to go out on loan, like I said, but it's a concern because we're back to this situation where we haven't got a lot of depth for an out and out striker.
Yeah, and obviously, Trossard had success at times playing a false 9 when those maybe other strikers weren't available. So now you're losing him as well. So then that's even, fewer options. But we're going to segue onto a bit of a weird one. Another sort of forward striker from the past. Some very interesting news, reports, I should say, came out from the Dutch football Twitter account. And this was to quote them, an unexpected transfer room today. So Sport, I think, not quite sure where that publication is from, but basically Sport said they've named Jurgen Lacardia, former Brighton flop, as a possible replacement for Memphis Depay at Barcelona. Lacardia is currently a free agent. So actually, this slipped under the radar, but basically, Lacardia joined Iranian team Persepolis last summer.
Yep.
And I think was doing pretty well, actually. But I've only this morning found out that that he left the club and the country. There's an article that I found that basically said he left the country amid the security concerns over the safety of foreigners. Apparently, he might have. I'll read the article here just so I don't say anything wrong. But hours after the sudden departure of Lacardia, this was mid-December, the striker of the Persepolis announced that he did not leave Iran because of his wife's illness, as reported, but for other reasons. At the same time, reports say Lacardia was concerned from the Dutch government's warning to its nationals not to remain in Iran. Lacardia's communication with his family has become very tough due to the state of the internet in Iran. So hopefully, just first off, it sounds like he's okay because he was actually at the Liverpool game and was loving Brighton's win over there. So hopefully him and his family are okay. But so he's no longer with the club. But for him to be linked with Barcelona is mad. Yeah.
Right. Let's get let's get straight. So I managed to actually find the actual article in place, which from Sport. Sport is a Catalan. I think it's a sports magazine. In Barcelona, based in the county of Catalan, and they've got a list of the supposed players that Barcelona are looking to replace for Memphis Depay, because he's over at Atletico Madrid right now. He's training with Atletico, but they still need to dot the I's and cross the T's with that transfer. But they're looking ahead and looking at the possible players of who they could replace. And incredibly, in this list, Jurgen Lacardia is believed to be one of the players that are considering. Now, that's based on me looking at it and reading the caption via Google Translate. Just want to make this absolutely clear. And my mind's still boggling over that factor, the fact that Jurgen Lacardia could be over at Barcelona. Because he's not Barcelona quality. Let's be honest here. Jurgen Lacardia is not Barcelona quality. I would be amazed if anything actually happens in that. I don't know whether or not that's just an incredible transfer rumor that has just spun wildly out of control. But like, Dutch Football News is a pretty decent Twitter account for all things to do with the world of the Netherlands, basically, in the world of football. So for them to tweet this out kind of shows that this may have some legs to this. Look at Lacardia in Barcelona at the new camp when he's barely done it for Hoffenheim, barely done it for Bochum, barely done it for Paris, wherever the Iranian team is. Couldn't do it for us. It's quite laughable, the fact that that's even a consideration. I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm honestly speechless.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I saw it and I was just like, "Is this a wind up?" No disrespect to him, but I mean, he can definitely find another club at a decent level somewhere. But Barcelona, I mean, that's just ridiculous. But well, that's why we love this wonderful weird sport. So we're going to talk a little bit later to Amie Wilson of Leicestershire Live for the lowdown on Brighton's upcoming opponents, Leicester. But before then, I'm just going to talk about team news, and then we can just talk about obviously that upcoming game. So unfortunately for Brighton, De Zerbi said that we have a problem with Colwill. He's got a muscular problem. I've since seen reports that I think from Football London's Adam Newson that he could be out for 6 to 8 weeks, which is a massive shame because he's played 8 games in a row in all competitions. Has looked very, very good for someone who's 19 years old. Almost to the point when Webster, who's obviously back fit, he might not have been able to usurp him in that starting 11. So it's a really, really bad timing for him. Because maybe Webster can get back into his sort of confident best, and then that might be he might struggle to get back in the team when he does return. So obviously that's we haven't got that confirmed from Brighton or De Zerbi himself, but that's a big, big blow. Other than that, other than obviously Jakob Moder, who's still a long-term absentee, everyone's fit. Webster and even Van Heck is in contention. It'd be nice to see if he could get some game time, obviously, because he impressed against Borough in the FA Cup. But yeah, big shame about Colwill, Tom.
Yeah, it is. It's also very typical, the fact they had to go and watch Chelsea play, and then it seems like the curse of the injury list that Chelsea has now struck one of their low knees in Levi. I'm gutted for him. For 6 to 8 weeks, that's a big setback, especially when this guy was sniffing an England call up. He was faultless, I think. It's fair to say he was absolutely faultless in the games that he's played for us. He's done wonders since De Zerbi's come in. You could clearly see why there's been so many Huddersfield Town fans crying out, why aren't we playing him sooner rather than later? Because when you see him playing on the ball, he's fearless as well. There's no the mental strength that he has is incredible. He's gifted with a fantastic left foot, as we said. His pass and his control on the ball has to be one of the best in the league at the moment. If you're in the back 3, 4, 5, so just to see him just get that muscular problem, however it happened, it's gutted. It's absolutely gutting because he has been such a good player for us. He's a good asset. He's going to be sorely missed. It's just going to be an interesting case to see how De Zerbi is going to deal with this. Webster's coming back up. He made a substitute appearance against Liverpool, replacing Dunk. Don't think he's ready for full 90 yet. I don't know if De Zerbi said anything in the press conference, but at the moment we probably might see a Veltman, Duncan, Webster back 3 at the King Power. Maybe Van Heck coming in. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how De Zerbi deals with this, because I feel the more we've seen Colwill play, the more I think De Zerbi feels like he's going to be one of the first names on this team sheet.
Yeah, so just to answer your question on sort of the defensive dilemma he has. So he did say Lewis Dunk will play with Webster or Van Heck. In the Middlesbrough game, Van Heck played very well, and I will decide today on either Webster or Van Heck. He said he also has a lot of confidence in him. He played with courage and intelligence at Borough. I liked him in that game. I want to build a squad of 20 players that are able to play in every game. I want to want them to be ready. We are stronger with 20 than we are with 11, 12, 13. So it does seem like I'm obviously I can't quite infer exactly what he's implying here, but maybe Webster isn't 100% ready to do a full game. It seems probably that Van Heck is. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one. But yes, obviously next up we have got Leicester. Two teams in sort of very different positions in the league. Leicester only 2 points above the relegation zone, down in 15th. They've lost 4 games in a row in the league, whereas Brighton obviously sitting pretty in 7th. And I believe a win this weekend would actually take Brighton 5th. The dizzying heights of 5th. So, and obviously it feels like a lifetime ago now, but Brighton did beat Leicester 5-2 back when Graham Potter was in charge in early September. Tom, we'll get the Leicester perspective in a little bit, but what's your take on this game? And are you feeling confident?
Yes, I am. I am feeling confident, but I do feel like these are the kind of games where banana skin could appear. So it would be interesting to see how De Zerbi tackles Brendan Rodgers. I do feel good for Leicester as a whole. I think they don't deserve to be where they are. They haven't got the funds that I think they thought they had anyway. They haven't really invested a lot, considering the fact that they've received a lot of money, and you see that with in their January transfer market movements. They had a really big transfer dealing with, was it Fofana? Fofana went in the summer, didn't he? Big money moved to Chelsea, and we haven't really seen that money spent. So I could see why there's a bit of unrest with the Leicester fans. And really, Rodgers can every now and then bring out a game plan that works so well. And I worry that that's good. He's probably looking at our game and being like, I think I've got a plan to stop De Zerbi here. I know how they're working. I know how we can stop it. So it will be interesting to see how that goes ahead. But I think, again, I am feeling confident. I think it's probably the first time I'm a bit wary going away, because our away form has always helped us out since we've been in the Premier League, and our home form has been the one that's a bit shoddy. Now our home form is fantastic now, so I feel very comfortable how we're doing at the Amex under De Zerbi. And even then, like, our away form has been really good of late. But I don't know, there's just something about Leicester that's making me take a cautious approach in this. But I'm always such a pessimist in these things. So I think this could be a one where De Zerbi's wits are going to be tested, because I think Rodgers is going to have 2, maybe 3 game plans. And if the first one works, then he's always constantly ahead going forward. So I'm quietly confident, but I wouldn't say I'll be screaming to the hills.
Well, obviously, we both hope that Brighton win. But yes, so now we're going to talk to Amie Wilson of Leicester Live for the inside track on the Foxes. So that should be good. Yes, guys, so we're here with Amie Wilson of Leicestershire Live, who's going to give us the down low on Brighton's upcoming opponents, the Foxes. Amie, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
All good, thanks. Tom, are you still good?
I'm all good here, thank you.
Top man. So obviously we're recording this on the Friday, just under 24 hours before the kickoff at the King Power Stadium. First question, Amie, what has gone wrong with Leicester this season? I know it's a big one, but there you go.
What has gone right, especially since the World Cup break? It seemed that Leicester were getting it together before the World Cup break. They had a run of, I don't know how many clean sheets, like 5, 6 clean sheets in a row. Danny Ward was getting to show he could step in as the number one after Kasper Schmeichel went. And then the World Cup break came. Leicester started off well with a 3-0 win, I think it was, over MK Dons in the Carabao Cup. Then they've lost every Premier League game since. And yeah, it's not been great. the attack seems to just break down really easily. The need for signings has become really apparent with the transfer window now open. Hopefully there'll be some movement soon. I think it's just the confidence has just drained. The fan there's been a bit of fan apathy around the place, and it's gone back to how it was when Leicester played Brighton at the Amex earlier in the season, when that was a low point of the season. It seemed to pick up before the World Cup, but it seems to have got back down to that level again now.
Amie, you touched on it in that little segment just then about the need for signings. Why is it that the Foxes seem to be reluctant to recruit at the moment?
I think, well, this was explained right at the very start of the season by the chairman Top, so Kun Top, Shivranatra Papa, that I think it was never properly spelled out, but from what it sounds like, it's financial fair play. The wage to turnover ratio is not great. There's a lot of players out of contract in the summer and in the next 18 months. And I think it's the being careful before there's, like, I think Everton have got really real problems with FFP at the minute, and it's making sure that Leicester are not in that situation in a year, 18 months time where they're having to not spend to avoid being sanctioned by FFP. I think now it's become apparent that got some of the Fofana money in from when they sold Chelsea in the summer. I think that's going to be used probably this summer, and I think there's been an acceptance that there is going to have to be a bit of spending in January to ensure that this downward turn doesn't continue.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think for a while Leicester were maybe held up as almost how to run a club in a well, in a nice fashion and well-run fashion, and it's a shame that that's got to sort of this position. So is it kind of a mixture of maybe, as you say, maybe high wages, or what do you kind of make of it, I guess?
I think what probably happened is at a level like Leicester, where they were trying to compete with the big six, try and break into that big six. You've got to be so careful with transfer windows, and I think there was just one transfer window where there was a couple of signings that just haven't worked. So last summer, Yannick Vestergaard came in for 15 million. He's hardly ever played. He's not done very well at all. Ryan Bertrand came in on big wages. He was on a free transfer, but he was on big wages, signed a 3-year contract. And he's hardly played. He's been out for over a year now with a knee injury. And I think at Leicester's level, when they've got to be so careful and so clever at spending the money they've got to compete at the top of the Premier League, one iffy transfer window and you can pay the price, not like Chelsea, who can go out and spend another 200 million on another bunch of players. Leicester can't do that. They've just got one family owning them, no other investors or anything. So you've got to be careful. To the future of the club depends on it, really. So yeah.
And like you say, like just that one iffy transfer window has punished you. You were at one point challenging for Champions League places, and now it's almost like as if the league tables flipped round for you guys. Let's talk about the January transfer window now. What possible signings are you guys looking into at the moment? Is there any movement in the over in the King Power Stadium?
Yeah, so there's three sort of positions that Leicester are targeting this January. It looks like one is pretty much done with Victor Christiansen coming in from FC Copenhagen. He's a young left back. He won't be signed in time for Saturday's game, but it is very, very close, apparently, him joining. I think it looks like Leicester will pay up to 20 million euros for him. Young left back, just turned 20 years old, apparently full of energy. And that is a position that Leicester really needed. They've only got Luke Thomas, who's a young academy graduate, who's fit and available basically in the left back position at the minute, with injuries to James Justin and Ricardo Pereira. So Timothy Castanha's playing on the right. Then the other two positions are, one desperately needed is a right winger. There's been a few names mentioned. There's been Nico Gonzalez, who's been a real transfer target for Leicester, but it seems that Fiorentina are really keen on keeping hold of him. There's been other names mentioned the last few days. It's been a few days where there's been lots of names linked with Leicester. And then the other position is centre-back, and it seems that Stoke City's Harry Souttar is one target for Leicester. That's what reports saying. There's talks between the two clubs and possible bids there. So it looks like there is definitely movement, which the start of the week, it was sort of all a bit doom and gloom that there's been no movement in the transfer window, like we're losing all these games. And there was a very, very negative feeling, but that feeling seems to have got a bit better as the week's gone on, with a bit of movement in the transfer window.
On another key player, I guess, at Leicester is obviously Brendan Rodgers. I assume because Leicester are 2 points above the relegation zone, he's under a fair amount of pressure. Do you think there's is his future under threat, or is it a case of they don't really have the funds to get rid of him, and then they wouldn't maybe find a better alternative?
It's a difficult one with Brendan. He was under a lot of pressure before the turnaround, before the World Cup, but then obviously he seemed to turn around the season, went on that really good run before the World Cup, which lifted Leicester higher in the table and up to mid-table, seemingly away from relegation trouble. But that's obviously turned down again now, and we're looking over our shoulders again. Personally, for me, I can't see him being. There's a whole thing with fans at the minute. It's either sort of sack him or back him, and it seems that with this transfer movement now, it seems that the owners are probably looking to back him. So bringing in some players that he has been calling for new players since the start of the summer transfer window. He was going big on the need for a refresh of the squad. And I think the owners will probably look to try and do that a little bit in January, and then a proper refresh in the summer if he gets to that. Obviously, if the results continue, then there probably will be a change. But if there is a bit of a turn up with some new players coming in January, then I can see them backing him in the summer again. So it's just whether he can do another turnaround. He has proved that he can get an uplift in results, and I think if he can do that again in the next few weeks, then he will be okay.
Let's talk about the game ahead this weekend. Is there any particular players that Brighton need to keep an eye on this weekend?
At the minute, with Leicester's form, not really. The good news for Leicester is that James Maddison is hopefully back to feature in the game. I don't think he'll start, but just him being around and being on the bench is massive for Leicester. He's been the main creative force this season. He was on fire before the World Cup. Obviously didn't get any minutes in the World Cup, but then came back and had this knee injury that's been keeping him out. But it was confirmed by Brendan Rodgers on Thursday that he should be fit enough for the bench, which is big for Leicester. And then another big injury boost is Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who is that energy in midfield. He's a local lad. He loves playing the game, so he will run, and he's that aggression and that energy in the middle of the park. And I think him being back as well, fit, will be a big sort of energy boost to the team, which seems to have been lacking the last 2 or 3 games without him. There's always Youri Tielemans. He's not on prop of the form at the minute, but if he shows what he can do, he's capable of scoring a worldie at any time. He had a period just before the World Cup where he seemed to be scoring worldies every week. I think they're the main 3.
So, I mean, you don't sound that optimistic going into the game, but I have to ask, what's your prediction for Saturday's game, please?
I'm an eternal optimist, but I think most Leicester fans would snap your hand off for a draw right now. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw with James Maddison to come on in the second half and get the equaliser.
Nice. Tom, what about you?
I'm quietly confident about this match, but I just feel like Leicester's going to be the banana skin of our season. But I do feel quietly confident. I'm going to go 2-1, Brighton.
Sorry, Amy, I'm joining Tom on that 2-1 fence. So, yeah, I think it should be a good one. But yeah, thanks, Amy, so much for coming on. Really, really good insight. And yeah, hopefully it should be a good one. So, yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and see you soon.